Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton and Mark Hallock, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey.
Well, welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton. I'm Mark Clifton with Mark Hallock.
Hey, what's up, man?
Dan Hurst. Dan's not here.
Where's that beautiful voice?
Dan is making money with that beautiful voice. He is doing some broadcasting today. We are in Atlanta at the North American Mission Board. Kyle here running the board, and we're going to talk today about 5 markers. Aren't markers something they used in poker?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
We could never have a deck of cards in our house. My dad was a pastor.
No cards?
No cards.
Really?
No, and we could not.
So what was the deal with that?
Because it leads to gambling.
Really?
That's right.
If you have cards, it can lead to gambling.
Yes, it leads to gambling.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
Was that pretty common?
No. It was common among the conservative Southern Baptists back in the 50s and 60s. No pool either. We couldn't play pool.
Why? Because of gambling?
Gambling, it leads to gambling. Pool halls,
Yep.
And cards. Couldn't play any cards. I remember.
What about dancing?
Oh, my goodness, no. Okay, you ready for this? This is a true story.
Okay.
So it's 1970, and I'm in the 6th grade.
Oh, boy.
And we are in PE. We're going to do
a dancing unit?
No, we don't do dancing. We do square dancing in PE.
Square dancing.
Okay? And so I told my mom and dad, I just mentioned one day, hey, we're going to do square dancing. And my dad sent a note with me to school that I was not allowed to participate in the square dancing.
Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't square dance.
Were there any other kids?
I asked my dad one time, I said, what's wrong with square dancing? He said, well, you pass partners around and you touch other women and you're not just with your wife. And besides, dancing's not right anyway. Baptists don't dance.
Yeah, this is a bad combo.
We don't dance and we don't play cards, and so we never had.
You just didn't do any of that.
No, and I'll never forget one time my first niece, my mom and dad's first granddaughter, she came over to the house one day and she had a deck of cards, and it's the first time cards had ever been, and my mom was just. Where did we get off on this? Some of you grew up where you couldn't.
Markers.
We got trouble right here in River City.
5 markers.
Trouble begins with T and rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. You remember that from The Music Man?
No, I actually don't.
You don't?
No.
It's a musical. And this guy shows up in this Iowa town. He wants to sell them these band instruments, and there's a pool hall opened up. So he says that's going to lead to all kinds of bad things.
Is this the one, the movie, was the guy had like all the instruments?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, we got trouble right here in River City.
Yeah, there it is.
Trouble begins with T, that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
Okay.
So anyway,
so
markers.
Here we go. Markers.
5.
Great intro.
We need Dan here.
5 markers.
5 markers.
Keep us on track.
I don't know anything about playing cards.
Okay, here we go. 5 markers.
We could play Old Maid.
Of church decline.
We
I was
could play
going to
Old
say,
Maid.
that's not a risky
but
game.
But we did, because it didn't have the hearts and the diamonds and stuff like that. So I never grew up in there. I can't play
you were
cards
kind of
today.
a bad boy if you played Old Maid.
I came home the other day. My wife is on her phone and she's playing like solitaire on the phone.
Man.
And so I had to have prayer for
Start
her.
twitching.
My wife's playing cards.
Gee whiz.
I don't know. Next time she'll be playing
Get your house in order.
And then she's going to be using markers, poker markers, whatever those are. 5.
Here we go. 5 markers of church decline. And these are 5. I mean, we could have more. But these are 5 biggies that Chuck Lawless, who we love.
We read an article, like a lot of you did, by Chuck Lawless, and it sparked this in our hearts and in our minds when we were more fluent and conversant than we are at this hour. So, but here really, look, church decline is not funny. And it's really why a lot of you guys tune in, because like all of us, we're in the situations where, man, our church is in deep decline. I was with a pastor recently, a wonderful guy, been in his church in a non-southern state, in a very difficult place, been there for over 20 years. And, man, he has grown that church until about COVID. And then it plateaued. And since COVID, it has declined every year.
Oh, wow.
And he said, Clifton, I'm not doing anything different. I'm working harder. I'm praying harder. But he said, we're declining. And he said, I don't know if it's because of me or if I'm the only thing keeping it from, like, free fall.
Wow.
And so I think understanding decline is really important. So here are some obvious markers of decline. 5 key markers indicate that church may be in decline. Number 1.
Okay, number 1 is, and this is obvious, but we need to state it, is declining attendance and engagement. So the engagement of people in the body using their gifts, whether it's, and it could be attendance in worship, it could be attendance in small group or Sunday school or serving or whatever, but this is definitely a marker and should be concerning, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I would say, especially in a normative sized church of less than a couple of hundred, you are going to have periods of decline numerically in Sunday morning worship. You're going to have people that move away. Maybe somebody's got a big family. You're going to have some other issues, some older people who pass away or who have to go to care centers. Yep. You're going to have a season where maybe for one season you had a bunch of new people come up, and maybe we had a year where we grew by 20. Well, the next year we lost 10.
That's right.
Up and down. So, but
and even over the course of a year,
if you combine a decline in attendance with a decline in engagement,
there you go.
That's your key. Yeah. Don't be too freaked out if you're 10% more this year, 10% last year, But if people aren't engaging in Sunday school, if they're not engaging in the ministry of the church, if they're not engaging in the small groups, if you notice people are disconnecting even from each other, that's a serious issue.
That's concerning.
That's even more concerning than perhaps a numerical drop on Sunday morning worship.
That's a good call. That's good.
Number 2.
Number 2 is, inward focus and loss of mission.
Well, churches that decline, we tend then to get preoccupied with maintaining what we've got.
Yeah.
Keeping what we've got. We want to maintain the building because it's easier to maintain the building than try to break the missional code of the apartment complex down the street. Mm-hmm. So it's easier to change. Right. It's easier to change the furnace filters and redo the kitchen than to try to reach those people
Just
who
focus on us right here.
Focus on us.
Yep.
Also, we end up focusing on trying to preserve traditions and settling disputes and taking care of internal matters, and sometimes even going through challenging things like, well, we're going to change our Constitution, which sometimes you need to. But let me be frank about it. Changing the Constitution is not going to reach one lost person. It's not going to make a difference in the community. Now, it may need to be done so that you can help reach more lost people, but you can use a whole lot of. Sometimes you just do the work of the church. Yeah. I mean, and you just do that. Yep. But changing, focusing inward on ourselves and all of our inward problems, and rather than really focusing on community impact, and conversations center far more in a declining church on us, rather than on those who are not here, who don't know Christ.
What would you say, Clifton? And I'm sure you can think of many churches. I think we both can, but. That maybe had an older congregation. And at one time, this is a church that they were on mission, man. They were evangelizing the neighborhood. They were reaching people with the gospel. And now I'm a young pastor or young family moving into this church, and I love these people. But how do you help that church begin to move out on mission again? Do you know what I mean? And begin to reach a community with the gospel, especially if it's an older congregation. Are there some things that you think about with that?
Well, obviously, I mean, you and I planted churches, and I've been a part of planting churches for decades. And when you plant a church, man, you are constantly looking outward. I mean, you begin looking outward, you keep looking outward.
It's nonstop. Yeah.
It's nonstop. You are totally focused on who are we reaching, how are we reaching people. Then there is this obvious pendulum. It's modality where you're out there looking at how we can move and how we can grow and how can we reach. And then there's this pendulum swing, I think it's called sodality, where you're looking at how can we maintain what we have? How can we keep what we have? How can we keep from losing what we have?
Right.
Because all of a sudden now people are more concerned with what's going on in the church rather than what's going on in the community.
Yes.
And if you are not intentional about it, you will move from an outwardly focused church into a very inwardly focused church. And it'll take up all your time, your energy, and everything else. And even your prayer life. Yeah. A lot of times, you have a Wednesday night prayer service or other prayer services. There's obviously nothing wrong with praying for the sick and the homebound and the shut-ins and the missionaries and everything. Nothing wrong with that. But how much time do you spend in your prayer meetings where your people are praying for themselves that they'll be bold in their witnesses? Yeah. When Paul asked people to pray for him, he didn't pray for the guard chained to him. He prayed for himself that I'll be bold and clear in my witness to the guard chained to me.
That's right, the gospel.
So even think about how your people are praying. Are they praying for themselves that they'll be more passionate, more compassionate, love the community more, share the gospel more? inwardly focused versus outwardly focused. And when you're inwardly focused, you lose mission. Again, listen to how they talk about. Are they always talking about the church, meaning us, or are they really concerned about what's going on in the community and the people who don't know Jesus yet? And especially this, are you ready? Do they see the people in the community as adversaries? They don't vote like we do. They don't live like we do. They don't dress like we do. They don't have the same biblical view of marriage and sexuality that we have. And rather than see them people captive by sin who need to be freed and redeemed, we see them people that we wish weren't here.
As the enemy, that's right.
There's the enemy.
Yep.
So inwardly focused.
Now, that's good. Okay, so number 1 is declining attendance and engagement. Number 2, inward focus and loss of mission. Number 3, resistance to change and innovation.
Yeah, and part of that has to do with 2 things. First, it's just the age of people, like me. I cannot stand having to get up and come up with a new password.
Yeah.
Again.
Right, yeah.
The only login I want on my phone is Kenny Loggins.
He's here all week, folks.
I spent all night on that one.
I know you did.
I get so tired of new logins. I get tired of new passwords.
It's the worst, man.
I get tired of my TV, now it's always changing.
Yep.
How am I going to watch my TV? What apps do I have to have on my smart TV to make it change? Jill and I can't get our TV to turn off. We bought one of these frame TVs that has a picture.
Oh, boy. You literally can't turn it off.
And so, it's cool. You can get this artwork on there.
Yeah,
it's like the guy
I've seen
said,
them. They're cool.
It's like the guy said, I spent a whole bunch of money on that because it looks like a picture. And the guy said, well, you should have just bought a picture. But now we turn the TV off, this picture comes on.
Oh, man.
And I said, well, Jill, it's supposed to. I said, it'll go off in about an hour or two when we're not in the room. She said, how do we know that? I said, it's just supposed to. Let's go to bed. So we get up an hour or two later to see if it's gone off. I'm just tired of this stuff. When I turn my TV off, I want it to turn off. I cannot leave a car with headlights on. So whenever I hit the button, to lock my car, and the headlights are still on.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't leave. I think because
you're afraid of the battery when the battery goes out, right?
I grew up in a time where you do never leave a car with headlights on because your battery goes off. Yeah. And Jill says they're going to go off. How do I know they're going to go off, Jill? I don't know that. I hate change.
Oh, man.
So there's one place, thank God, I can go to every week.
My
and
church.
I can park in the same parking spot, walk in the same door, sit in the same pew, know this, as I've said before, smell the same aroma of old Sunday school literature, hymnals, and 100 years of potlucks. And I can smell it in that building. And it smells like home. It feels like home. And now you want to change that too? So part of the resistance to change is that there's so much other change in older people's lives.
That's a great point.
Not even including their health.
Right.
They can't see as well. They can't hear as well. They can't walk as well. So that's part of the reason they're resistant to change. The other part of the reasons they're resistant to change is really their church has become sort of a little island of homogeneity and worldview. They used to be the worldview. 40, 50, 60 years ago, your church was the worldview in your community. Right. Everybody believed the same thing about marriage and about sexuality and about – now they don't. So now the church – this is our little island we can go to. Yeah. And this is one place where everybody thinks like I do and believes like I do.
It's a safe place for me.
It's a safe place. So all of that makes it resistant to change. Yeah. And what we do, since it's a safe place, we want to lean into our traditions and our heritages. Rather than leaning into the gospel, which says you got to take up your cross every day.
Yeah, that's good.
Where Jesus said, they called me the son of Satan. They're not going to treat you any better. I send you out as sheep before the slaughter, right? And yet we want to be a safe place in a hostile world. So that's a lot to say about resistant to change,
that's
but
true.
You need to know that's
another
marker.
We need
and it's a marker. When they're resistant to change, that's a marker.
That's
Number 4?
Number 4 is leadership burnout and limited lay involvement.
When a small group of tired leaders carries the entire ministry load, while the congregation remains passive, decline accelerates significantly.
Yes.
Healthy churches mobilize their members in ministry, but declining churches often show a shrinking pool of volunteers and leaders who are experiencing exhaustion. Fewer and fewer people leading, more and more people doing multiple things. I had a church planter one time when he started his church. He made a solid commitment that in our church, no matter what happens, you will have no more than 3 positions, 3 ministry positions. You can be a deacon and a Sunday school teacher and maybe serve on a committee, but no more than that, ever. I don't care how big we get. And even that is probably too many. Probably 2 is better. But we've got people who do everything.
Oh, man, yeah.
Other people who don't do anything, and that leads to leader burnout. And when leaders burn out, are you ready? They leave.
Right.
And then you end up with church with no leadership.
Boy, that's true.
And some of you are there right now.
Yep.
Number 5.
Okay, number 5. So here's the last one. And, oh, man, we've all been here. Financial strain and deferred maintenance on a building.
You walk into a building. I do this all the time because I speak in so many different places. I can walk into a building and, Tom Rayner and I used to have this game he played when we do a consult on churches. What year is it? You can walk into a building and go, okay, this is 1988. They haven't changed anything here. They got the same ceiling fans with the same little globes. They've got the same or mauve carpet. Yep. This is 1988.
This is 80s.
Nothing's changed. Or this is the 90s. Or this is the 70s even, right? Yeah. And so you look at that and you go, and you see carpet that obviously has had many, many stains. Maybe water has been on it for decades and it just looks all faded over there. You see some ceiling tiles that have begun to warp and are discolored. Now, look, none of that, changing that doesn't save any souls. It doesn't move anybody into heaven. But one of the things you can look at a church is when people ignore those things, because I promise you this, when that church was really functioning at a high level, that would not have been ignored.
Right, exactly.
That would have been addressed.
It would have been addressed.
Just like but when you start ignoring that, you're basically it just shows you that you've got too many other things on your plate and that those things don't matter anymore. And I'll be frank about it. I'm always aware that when someone comes into your church building who is hurting deeply and they are struggling with some major issues in their life, be it chemical addictions or physical disability, like they've discovered they have cancer or they have Alzheimer's or they've got some major issues in their life or their marriages have fallen apart and their spouse has left them. And they walk in and they see your building all in disrepair and hasn't been updated or hasn't been cared for. There's a thought that, well, if they can't care for a building, how can they care for me?
That's true.
And if they don't care enough to keep their building in good shape, what do they really care about? So I think looking at the financial strain that comes, the first thing you see is you deferred maintenance. And we're not saying, what we're saying is when you look around, you see these things. You see a pattern in your church of not only decline in attendance, but a decline in engagement.
Yep.
That's really important. When everything begins to focus on inward rather than even forgetting who the community is. When you resist change and innovation for the reason we talked about, fewer and fewer people take leadership, and eventually those leaders get tired and leave. And then you notice your building has some major deferred maintenance, and you don't have the money to fix it.
Yep.
Yeah, then you're in decline. And basically what we want to say, what Chuck Lawless wants to say is this. Are you ready? Because we want to give you some hope on this. Recognizing these markers is the first step towards revitalization.
Okay, say that again.
And you may recognize them, Pastor, but your church members may not want to recognize them.
That's right.
I'm not suggesting that you don't see them. Obviously, you live there. You see them.
Yep.
But how do you and I both know sometimes our people just don't see it.
They just don't see
Pastor,
it.
Pastor, it's not that bad.
Yep.
Pastor, other churches are worse than we are. We're fine.
Yep.
We've down a little bit, but we're fine. Churches that honestly assess their situation are willing to seek help. They're willing to make changes, and they're willing to refocus on their biblical mission. But you have to do that. And I'm in Rayner's little book, Anatomy of a Revived Church. I mean, that is square. The first chapter in that book is you own the situation you're in. And so, pastors, the first thing we want to do is pray with you that your people, their eyes will be open. And sometimes it takes an outside consultant, a director of associational missions, or someone from your state convention to come in and do a weekend or look at your church and even do a building assessment just to help lay another set of eyes on it.
That's really good.
Because if they're not willing to acknowledge these declines, they're not going to follow you in changing them.
Yeah, that's really
good.
So
if you need some help with that, we want to help you.
Absolutely.
And so, man, if nothing else, just email replant@nam.net and say, help me.
Yep.
And we'll figure out some way to connect with you, all right? Well, that's about it for this, ladies and gentlemen. So hope you put your cards away and you don't play those the devil's demon cards.
That's right.
And all you who play solitaire, I'll be praying for you. that you'll be convicted of that kind of thing. All right.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.